My name is Dr. Sunanda Kejavar. I'm one of the radiation oncologists here at the Sharp Outpatient Pavilion. I work downstairs. It's my honor to welcome everyone to tonight's program entitled Mind, Body, and Spirit, a Holistic Approach to Patient Care. We're excited to have all of you here, and hopefully you all checked in at the front registration table. In addition to the presentations, which will follow, we have 10-minute massage appointments, 10-minute Reiki appointments, and 15-minute relaxation skills sessions throughout the evening at the Christian Wellness Center. These are all free of charge. We also have our cancer and the arts table outside with pumpkin decorating, along with several community groups that are providing services for our patients. Our hope is that the speakers, presentations, pampering, and information booths will provide you with additional ways to support yourself or your loved ones through this journey of treatment, recovery, and beyond. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers tonight. The first is Deborah Wilson-Guttis. She's a cancer survivor and has over 20 years of supporting women as a business and career coach, Reiki master, and healing touch practitioner, and popular speaker and author. She has chosen to turn her journey with cancer into something positive by supporting others in navigating this disease. She lives in San Diego with her husband, who's also here, 24 years. Next, we have Heidi Johnson. She is one of our spiritual care coordinators in pastoral care at Sharp, and she'll speak on the positive benefits of nurturing our spirits and the ways to get there. We then have Marlene Wendell, one of our licensed clinical social workers, and she'll speak on relaxation skills and techniques. And finally, we have Katie Thermos. She's our one of our certified oncology dietitians, and she'll speak on diet and exercise. At the conclusion, we'll do our raffle drawing, and then we'll have a 15-minute Healthy Steps exercise class taught by Terry Wyatt, one of our nurse navigators. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Deborah Wilson-Guttis.
Thank you.
Thank you. So honored to be here. Dr. Kejavar is my radiology oncologist. All right, so glad to see all of you here. Wow, this is great. I'm very honored, actually, to be here today, both in physical form as well as in front of you speaking. The Sharp Hospital System has just been wonderful to me. I assume all of you who are here are also, is that a good guess? Yes? Yeah, many of you are. It's terrific, right? I mean, yeah. Okay, so before I get started, everybody should have a handout. There's two pieces in that stack that you got. One is blue. And I really want your feedback, if you would please. It's just kind of a quick, kind of a check the box thing, and if you want to provide some additional comments, that's great. But I really value, as a presenter, your feedback and how I can make this presentation of more value to you as individuals. And then there's a white sheet. That's your handout for me. It has like little circles on it. Give you an area to write down some notes as we go through. Okay? All right. You can fill out the green form, and then I have a table right outside the doorway here. I'm doing book signing for my book, and one of the raffles is actually the book. Okay, one more thing before we get started. I kind of want to get a pulse of the group. I have a lot to cover, but I really, in the time that I have, I want to try and really focus in on the things that are going to be of most interest to you. So, here's the audience participation. I won't make you get up here and stand or anything. How many of you are what I would call post-cancer thrivers? Good. All right. Yahoo! And anybody just recently diagnosed or still going through treatment? Okay, a few of those. All right, and how many are just here because there's some great information and some nice freebies like the free Reiki and healing touch? All right, smart. We know who the smart ones are. All right. So, I guess we didn't get the clicker. Okay. So this is me. That's my book. Amazon bestseller, by the way. Woo-hoo. Made it number 3 on the Amazon Oncology and Cancer. I also co-authored Exploring Women of Spirit, Exploring Sacred Paths of Wisdom Keepers. You can find that on Amazon as well. And in November, I'm co-authoring a book called My Journey, My Journal. Pretty cool too. Okay, okay. So this is my program for tonight, Living Well Through Cancer and Beyond. And I'm going to take you through my journey with cancer, and I'm going to use the metaphor of the life cycle of a monarch butterfly. The monarch has a lot to teach us. And I like to approach this conversation from a place of empowerment and inspiration. I mean, let's face it, cancer is brutal, right? We know that. But it does have the ability to bring about transformation in your own life if you choose that for yourself. Okay, so we'll go through each stage. Stage 1, the egg, caterpillar, the chrysalis, and then the butterfly. All right, stage 1. Oh, before I go there, I'll talk about this. So my diagnosis was February 23 last year. That's one of those things you remember probably very clearly, right? I don't remember what I was wearing, but I remember what kind of day it was, right? My physician was out of town, and so her PA got the duty of breaking the news for my husband and I. Yay, lucky her, huh? I have a history of fibrocystic breasts, so we thought it was just a cyst. But when I went in for my mammogram a couple months later, we discovered, oh, no, I'm really sorry to tell you, but it's actually stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. Yeah, the emotions are still there, right? I don't know that they really ever go away, right? But the really cool thing about it was she left the room, 2 of us, David, I'm sorry, I'm going to make you cry. We held each other, right? Everybody should have a partner, somebody who can be with you when you go through something like that. And, almost like simultaneously, we pulled away from each other and we both said in unison, we can do this. We can do this. And from that moment forward, I knew, I don't know why, I can't tell you why exactly, but I just knew that I was going to do something with this. Gosh darn it. It was not just going to be a crappy story that I went through. It was going to mean something in the end. Didn't exactly know what. And that is what I call stage 1, the egg. This is the point of shift or change, or i.e. your diagnosis. Now, the interesting thing about the egg for the butterfly is that they lay their eggs usually around March or April. And it's a quick process. It's only like 4 days before they go from egg to caterpillar. And in the same way, things happen really fast for you, right? When you get that diagnosis, right? A lot of stuff happens all at once. You may or may not have known something was going on. You may or may not have known you had something going on in your breast. And then boom, instantly your life changes. That is the seed of transformation. The point of something different. I love this quote by Maya. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. I refuse. So what are some of the things that we deal with initially? Well, we got the sudden change. There's the shock, the fear, the uncertainty. Yeah, so a couple weeks later, I had that PET scan, right? That one they have you do, right, to make sure it didn't go anywhere else. And then I get the call of, well, I hate to tell you, but the hemorrhoids you thought you had? No, that's actually stage 3 anal cancer. Yeah. That one took me a little longer to kind of wrap my head around. I knew I could make it through one diagnosis, but 2, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah, so that was one, I mean, cancer has sometimes twists and turns, right? Is it always predictable? Never. Yeah, lots of twists and turns. So there was 2 diagnoses, which changed my treatment. I had been accepted into a trial at UCSD for triple-negative breast cancer, because there's, you know, the treatment for that's like 30 years old, because there's so few of us, there's like 20% of us that get that diagnosis. Well, guess what? That threw me out of that, so I wasn't able to participate in that. That was very disappointing. So a lot of disappointment. And the non-stop head chatter, right? Oh my gosh, it's like a freight train, right? Very loud and hard to ignore, right? Am I going to survive this? Will I have to have chemo? Will I lose my hair? How am I going to get through this with my family, my work, my children, if you've got children, right? It's just like, oh, please stop already. So, what do? Well, I'm going to take you through keys to coping for each of these. So for one, and Marlene, our wonderful therapist, who was just a lifesaver for me at one point, is going to take you through some conversation around meditation. But before you roll your eyes around meditate, who meditates regularly? Anybody willing to? Oh, yay. Okay, good. All right, so meditation comes in a lot of different forms, right? Journaling, coloring, got a lot of really great adult coloring books, art, painting. I have a client who told me, well, I'm an atheist and I don't meditate. And I said, okay, fine. So what is it that you do where you just completely lose track of time? And he said, I stopped for a moment. He said, oh, well, I play the piano. I'm like, well, there you go. Right? Meditation is about stopping that head chatter. So anything for you that you lose track of time or time stands still, that is a form of meditation. Not all of us can get in the Zen position, right? So start where you are. That's what I always say. Start where you are. Do something that can calm down that head chatter so that you can begin to think. I love journaling because, and that's how my book started actually, because it allowed me to get all that stuff out of my head and onto paper. Because it doesn't control you here if it's out. If you get it out of here onto paper, it has a lot less control over you. Right? Because your thoughts, guess what? They are like number 1 when it comes to how you perceive your disease. Mindfulness, they call it. I see mindfulness and meditation used interchangeably quite a bit these days. I actually view meditation as a tool for mindfulness. You become more mindful when you allow yourself to have some sort of practice to slow down and stop that head chatter. Become more connected with yourself. So meditation is key to mindfulness. Okay, any questions? Okay. All right, stage 2 is the caterpillar. Caterpillar has about 2 weeks to grow. Interesting thing about a caterpillar, it has a voracious appetite. Did you know it eats like 200 times itself in milkweed in 2 weeks? That's like the equivalent of a 7-pound baby consuming 1,400 pounds of formula. So it's a voracious eater. And in the same way, you probably found yourself, right, taking in, okay, you're searching online for, what is my diagnosis, and, looking into the treatment therapies that have been, options that you have ahead of you, right? And of course, your friends and family, they all turn into experts, right? Here, try this, and they're sending you this, and mailing you this, right? You're like, oh my God, stop. It's all too much, right? But you want to know, but you don't want to know. Right? And if you get online, granted, some of the stuff online is just scare the crap out of you, So it's like you want to know, but you don't really want to know. And you get online, it's so depressing. You're like, oh gosh, there's got to be another way. Another reason I wrote the book is like, I don't want people to have to go through all the stuff that I went through. I want it to be easier, Don't subject yourself with so much stuff. I mean, there's some stuff you're going to have to figure out, and it's not going to be in the book, obviously, based on treatments and so forth. But okay, so caterpillar. Forgot I put like little. Oh no. Oh yeah, my quote. Alice Walker. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Where have you ever given up your power? As an individual going through this journey, you are still in the driver's seat. There were times when I said, well, of course I had the choice as to what treatment options I was going to do. And believe me, there was a lot, my main oncologist, Dr. Kristen Rice, took my case to 2 different tumor boards. And there were plenty of individuals, doctors in those tumor boards that said, well, she should just have a mastectomy and get that out of the way. And I said, let me guess, this were all men. She said, yeah, most of them. Because the idea was, we'll get that out of the way so we can just focus on the anal cancer. Because we had, one of the biggest issues with me was, which one do we deal with first? Because there isn't one treatment plan that tackles both of them. And, likewise, you probably had your own choices to make. Do I get a mastectomy? Do I not? For me, I could have gotten a mastectomy, but it wouldn't have changed my treatment plan one iota. So for me, well, is there something that we can do that will help keep the breast cancer under control while we deal with anal cancer? Because it was inoperable because of where it was at. And I didn't want to be with a colostomy bag for the rest of my life. And so, thank God, Dr. Rice found something that actually shrunk the breast tumor, which was, by the way, almost like 1.5 inches big by the time I was diagnosed. And it actually shrank in the process of getting the anal cancer under control and cured. So, but those are the kinds of options choices we have to make sometimes, right? They're not fun. All right, so caterpillar, overwhelm, unrealistic expectations of yourself. How many of you said, I'm just going to, I laughed because I did this. How many of you said, I'm just going to live my life as normal as I can and just kind of like fit this disease, in best I can, right? Yeah, right? I'm going to have as normal of a life as possible, right? How long did it take you it took me way too long to figure out that just wasn't happening. And then the grief, right? There is grief. There's a grief that's part of this process. A grief of a loss of your life as you know it, at least for the time being. Acceptance, going through the grief process. And so part of the coping strategies is being able to first set boundaries both with yourself and others, having realistic expectations. What do you need to let go of in your life? What are the commitments that you have that you need to say, okay, for right now, those need to go away. Learning to say no, and then also being familiar with the stages of grief and how best to navigate those. Those are really important coping strategies. And I wish I could have. And part of that also is defining your new normal. What is that for you, right? You have a normal now, but it's a different normal than what you had before. I wish I had more time to do a deeper dive on this very expansive subject, but trying to give you as much value as I can here. Okay, stage 3, the chrysalis. So with the chrysalis, let's see, it's about 10 days. And during that time, it looks like nothing's happening. But guess what? All those organs, everything that makes up the caterpillar is being transformed into the body parts for the butterfly. And likewise for you that have gone through this, there's an internal transformation that's going on with you, right? Both spiritually and physically. You're being healed. Hopefully a level of transformation on a spiritual level is occurring as well. You're getting to know yourself. You're reestablishing values. What's really, really all that important to me? What am I so ready to let go of? Yeah. Wayne Dyer, God bless him. He was so wonderful, right? You have everything you need for complete peace and total happiness right now. If you take that approach during your journey, which I did, I always try to, well, that's kind of how I live my life, is kind of from the standpoint of, okay, well, this kind of sucks. But how can I feel, as I was going through cancer, it's like, okay, I feel like crap today. But what can I do that would make me feel better? You know, what's one thing I could do that would make me feel a little bit better right now? And maybe it was walking. Even if it was just sometimes in the middle of the night, it would just be walking around our house. When I went through my first oral chemo, it was horrible. Or second, actually, it was AC. You know, I had AC, adriamycin, Cytoxan. Oh heavens! You feel like you're going to explode from the inside out. So there'd be nights where I would just pace around the house, trying to get my body to relax. And so sometimes it's just the simple things. You know, what's the one thing you can do that would help you in that moment? Challenges, coping with the side effects of the treatments. Okay, so you're in the chrysalis, got all this stuff going on, but you're trying to balance your life, and maybe you've got to work, your job, and I have a business that I somehow managed to actually maintain going through my treatment. It was amazing how I went from working basically 50, 60 hours a week to working about 20, and I still maintain my business. I can have a really great conversation for anybody who's an entrepreneur and want to know how to be very concentrated and focused and make stuff happen in a short period of time. I know a lot of secrets now. Time pressures, right? Coping. So here's where creating a holistic protocol to really support the vitality of your own health and well-being comes into play. Where's my, oh here it is. I wrote, and on your green sheet, you can actually request a copy of this. I created my Simple Healing Solutions Guide. And this is free for the asking, it's through your email. Basically, I broke it into two categories, physical and emotional. So let's say you were dealing with mouth sores from chemo. I never had them. You know why? Because I used Tom's of Maine mouthwash, and I'm not here to plug them necessarily, but it's aloe. It creates a different environment in the mouth. I also, it also contains clove and other essential oils that help promote a healthy mouth environment. I also liked On Guard, doTERRA's On Guard toothpaste. But I never had any issues with the mouth sores. But this reference guide is color-coded. So you basically find your issue or symptom you're trying to deal with. It gives you kind of an abbreviated version of what you can do, and then there's longer explanations of things that you can try to help you. So again, it's everything from like diarrhea, constipation, chemo brain, body pain, nausea, hey, I had it all, low energy. How do you prevent radiation burn? I went through 2 series of radiation, one for my pelvis and one for my breast. Never ever burned. I applied lavender and aloe for about 3-4 times a day. Never burned. Simple things. Diet changes. Simple changes you can make to not have some of these symptoms. Okay. All right, we have to run out of time. Charles Swindoll. Life is 10% what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
Amen. All right. All right, metamorphosis. So about this time, your support system is shrinking. You come out of treatment. Everybody says, okay, so you're well now, right? You're supposed to go pick up your life where you left off, and you're like, huh? I don't even know who I am anymore. Possible lingering physical symptoms and fatigue. How do you cope? Give yourself time to adjust. Does the butterfly just like go out of its chrysalis? No, it kind of like pokes itself out, right? You're a little wobbly after you come out of treatment, right? It's like, who am I? You slowly emerge. Try and find that, okay, so I had my new normal, and I'm creating another new normal. What's important to me now? So that's where the coping comes in. You ask questions like, where do I go from here? How do I want to shift my life? Shift my life. I'm so glad we're taping this. Shift my life as a result of what's occurred for me. That's where the empowerment comes in, right? When you can take a place of, I stand in this place of I do have choices. I have choices about what I choose to feed my mind. I have choices about what I think and where I focus. That's the mindfulness. And I have choices as to where I want to go from here. I'm not necessarily going to turn and, do what I'm doing, creating a visual business focus around it. And you may not necessarily want to even do anything with cancer. However, it can still impact how you show up in the world. And I think in the end, that's the important thing, right? It's such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you for being interactive. I love that. If you want to learn more about how you could work with me, please see me at my table right outside the door. I also am doing a book signing. You can purchase a book there. Thank you. Sorry about that. It's okay.
I'm Heidi Johnston, the chaplain here at Sharp Memorial. I was diagnosed at the age